Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is a Thanksgiving Day message. I'm going to basically take the day off today, but I can, do this. I am not going to say Happy Thanksgiving because I don't know why we say that on holidays, right? There's no special days in the sense that every day has a different energy and every day has its own potential. Some days are going to be happy days for you. Some days are going to be happy days for me. It's kind of random and without purpose. Holidays. When I was in India, they had a day called Diwali, and when we were there living in a flat, there was fireworks. It's supposed to be about light, but somehow it's become about fireworks. Like it's a celebration of light, and I don't even remember what the specifics are. But the way that's celebrated now, at least in Chennai, is that people set off fireworks and in a weird way. Like we would be walking around the street, we would be walking around a corner, and we come up on a firework, and it just blow up, and you're like, 20 feet away. Like there's a woman, she lit some fireworks on the street and ran into her house, and um, and we walked up on it, like, and people could get hurt because there's people always walking around the streets, and they do it all night. Like there's fireworks going off at 2, 3 in the morning, just people, and cheap ones, like not like cool ones, like the when you see fireworks on 4th of July, the ones that light up the sky or something, like just random firecrackers and things. And it's really stupid. And there were some pictures of like cows going and eating fireworks and then blowing up on it, and the jaws were bang. I mean, things like this, right? And it's become, and the smell of gunpowder and the whole thing. And so it's not a good holiday. Like and there's another one where they throw paint on each other. Everyone's supposed to like wear some white clothing, and you throw dry paint, and there's these things. When we were in Sri Lanka, my family and I, renewing our visa, we stayed there a little bit longer. It's an island place. The ocean's kind of polluted, but it would be a beautiful ocean. Um, they had a holiday where everyone just gives out like treats at their offices. Like you'd walk down a business section, and the businesses would all be giving out ice cream or whatever, like little cups of ice cream, not to just the kids, to everybody. But like with birthdays and holidays, these are supposed to be special days or happy days, and reuniting with family and things like that. And the family's so messed up and twisted in America, and usually getting together with family is a hassle and a stressor. And now people are so divided politically, and belief in their belief systems. It becomes arguments in these places at these holidays. Some days you have a good one. Some days you feel the spirit. Like they all have like a spirit to them, right? And Thanksgiving has probably the best one because it's about gratitude. It's about food to whatever extent. Stuffing yourself is, not the best thing, but being about gratitude and being grateful is a wonderful holiday. It's like the best of the holidays that we celebrate. But you should be grateful every day. Like people should focus on gratitude because it's what makes life enjoyable or makes life worthwhile, is being grateful. Being grateful for whatever befalls you as some sort of a blessing from God. And when you take that attitude, that's why we say be grateful at the end of my videos. When you have that attitude, it makes your life better. Being grateful for even the bad things, being grateful for, appreciative of the good things is really important, because otherwise you start thinking the good things are there because you had something to do with it, or you were responsible for all the good things in your life. And to some extent you can be. You're creating your future, so you're contributing. But the good things are, can build your ego and can make you feel invincible and make you feel, can do things that are negative to you spiritually. So being grateful for them, being humble, and knowing that things can be taken away from you, or the things that can change in an instant, and things can go from good to bad, happy to difficult, is important. Otherwise, you get a sense of entitlement. Babaji, the second master of the Sajmark system, used to provide free food for people at his house that came for, he would just feed people that were there to be a part. He didn't take donations or things at the beginning. People would come to his house and he would transmit to them and clean them, and he would feed them very humble. He didn't have a lot of money, like a watery dal. Was a dal, was a lentil sort of thing. The stuff that you wouldn't find in Indian restaurants for the most part, because it's very simple food. Bland to some extent, and a chapati may be some, like a tortilla, and he would say, eat up and enjoy, because you can't be expected to be fed like this every day. He would say that about, not the food he was providing, but food that, like the times that we live in right now, where there's an abundance of food and whatever it is, right? And that you can't be expected that this is going to continue forever. We live in a time where that's the case, right? But being grateful is I always talk about this, well, I used to. When you go through the stages of grief, there's acceptance, the 5 stages of grief. Acceptance is the where you reconcile the bad thing. But there's another stage, which is gratitude. And everything ends with gratitude. When you're grateful for something, even, especially the bad things, because it's easy to be grateful for the good things. But sometimes people aren't even grateful for the good things, right? And so, how are you going to be grateful for the bad things if you're not grateful for the good things, right? If you have to, gratitude has to be complete, right? For God, when you have a relationship with God, you have to be in a state of gratitude all the time to have a real, sense of a appropriate relationship with God. If you look at everything as a blessing, you look at everything as a gift, an opportunity, then life becomes, an opportunity and something that's can move you forward, that there's some purpose and some reason for everything that's happening, and that it's, there's fairness in that, right? There's justice in that, where if you think things are random and chaotic, then all these things befall you. And, our culture promises you, this idea of the pursuit of happiness, right? Happiness is a condition. Like, you have things that are, some things are like tangible spiritual states or whatever it is. And, there are things that are spiritual conditions where you're in a moment of happiness, right? It's a moment. It's it might last for, a day, or there's things that go with it biologically, serotonin, dopamine, things like this. Pleasure, right? Sometimes it's relief. I always feel like really good the days after I have migraines. So I'm in pain and really feel bad, and just, trying to grind out whatever it is, a work day, and get some things accomplished as much as I can, and having some physical pain. And then when the pain is gone, and especially for migraines, it seems like there's a boost in serotonin. Migraines also have to do with serotonin and things like this, right? I made a long Will Smith video yesterday, and there is, that's the epitome of a lack of gratitude, right? Where Jada came from a poor family. She was this guy, brother Bilal, in this interview was talking about her history. Her mom, she came from a single mom, and her mom was a drug addict, and she didn't have, enough to eat, and, she was having to basically, prostitute herself. This is what this guy said in the interview, to survive with drug dealers and, local thugs in the area or whatever. And coming out of that background and becoming a celebrity, and, married to somebody who's the number one, whatever box office star, and have all this wealth and fame and things like this that people crave, right? And this is not a grateful, she's miserable all the time. Like, you see her face, and, whatever. Some people, no matter what happens to them, they're going to be miserable. People have been traumatized and abused and, things like that when they're young. It just doesn't get better for them. They, they're just twisted up inside, and they don't have the proper, haven't been loved, and don't know how to receive love, and they don't know how to connect to God, and, these things. So no matter what happens on the material level, it isn't going to get better for them, right? You see that. Will Smith is suicidal. This is what this guy said. Will Smith said it himself in one of the YouTube videos. I talked about the same things with Madam Expiration Date, right? I had a video I put up of the whole stuff when this happened with Jada's book. And I ran my compilation. I used some clips from Will's YouTube channel. And they've copyrighted me on videos that are basically dead, like videos that got 4, 5, 6,000, 7,000 views, whatever they did, right? And not a lot of views, compared to what, I mean, it's not affecting their brand, and, they've already destroyed their reputation. I mean, there's no, but they've manually found the videos, like their team or whatever, and they so much want to control things. I mean, this guy, if you haven't seen the video yet, it's on my other channel, Pock Laughs Now channel, and I, show clips of the guy, and he's a good storyteller, and his what he's saying is believable, because I didn't get a chance to say this yesterday, but he talks about, after seeing, he has accounts of Dwayne Martin giving it to Will Smith and Will Smith. It's become a thing now, right? And murdering Will Smith from behind, as he puts it, right? But the story afterwards, Will Smith comes chasing him down, and he tells him 3 stories. A story of Eddie Murphy being with a transgender prostitute, and the transgender prostitute hanging himself. And the story was that he jumped off a roof, tied some sheaths together, and jumped off a roof and was swinging into his trailer or something because he got locked out. So there's stuff like that, right? And the story of Will Smith putting out a song that had swears in it, and the people that controlled him said this song will never see the light of day, as long as you do what you're told. Them having things on him, right? Because he didn't swear in his rap music. That's what his big claim to fame was. But he put out this weak song, another one of his weak songs with swears in it, and then he talked about firing his original aunt on the show, getting rid of her and the Prince of Bel-Air. And it was interesting, I mean, the guy could be lying, but he had more context to the story. Like, what happened afterwards was important. And he separated from Will Smith. He was his personal assistant, and he got out of there because of that. The story is that the guy was basically saying that Will Smith was warning him that, the people that controlled Will Smith, the handlers, weren't going to be happy about this guy seeing what he saw. And, it made the story more believable, right? And it just, made Hollywood more scummy. And what I've talked about before, stuff that we all know. It's the underbelly of the beast. And so many people aspire to be rich and famous and have these things, and how many of them are happy? And how many of them are grateful? See, the problem is we think we know what's good and bad. We think we know what's good and bad for us. We have desires of things that we want. And we want those things, whatever they are, the things that we think make us happy, all the time. And the things that don't make us happy, we want to push those away. I mean, this is Saj Marg, the meditation, gratefulness meditation I do. This is the primary philosophy of it, that we believe we know what's good for us, and we don't. Because we have sensory stimulation, things that are pleasurable. We think pleasure is what we want to feel all the time, and pain is something to avoid. That's why we have pain management and drugs and things that prevent you from feeling the pain. But pain is oftentimes a motivator, and fear and anger and things that are considered negative, and things that whatever motivates us to move forward and not be in a stagnant position, right? We're in a this idea that you can have a happily ever after, like this, which is probably the worst part of our indoctrination. This idea of happily ever after, because you're gonna die. Like, there's no ever after, and as you get older, I was talking about this in my other video. Well, the story I was going to say is that my wife and I went to get some stuff for Thanksgiving. We're having a traditional Thanksgiving. We eat turkey quite a bit, or we used to. Like, we eat it when we, there was a place where we can get turkeys, like not Amish, but Amish adjacent type people that have a little, farm stand food and milk and things they sell, like raw milk and things. And also the people we buy our hay from raise turkeys. We're going to eventually raise turkeys. We just haven't got around to it. And, turkeys are, it's better than chicken. And especially if you raise them in more natural, these farm raised, these turkeys are, they're barely able to function. They're so stupid. And, but like if you raise them in a free range type situation, they have a more natural life, and they eat, they have a, more, whatever it is, right? Better life, and they have they live more like a natural animal, and they also eat, a variety of things, not just some, grain fed. I mean, whatever it is, in some, some building somewhere, but they're out there in the sunlight and absorbing, what all the nutrients and things that are there. It's a healthier type situation, right? But we were going to do a traditional thing, and we went to Costco, and there was a whole it was a kind of a big thing that was happening there. Whatever that day, it was really crowded, and we've been eating a lot of watermelon. You can't find organic watermelons. We've tried to grow them, and we'll probably grow them. We've kind of got it down to where we can grow them, but it's a limited crop, right? Where now we can get them even in November in Costco. But anyways, they had these giant watermelons. I was carrying them in the house, and I twisted, and my back just went out. And then I told this story in my other video, but I'm going to talk about it a little different way. And I did the So Right. We have this machine called the So Right. Again, when I talk about healthcare stuff, I'm not recommending anything. Like if people hear what I have to say and they look into it, they do their own research. But I don't, I'm not a medical person. I'm not a healer, like, like a doctor type healer person. There's a difference between a doctor and a healer, but a healer, like I don't think about things like that unless I have to do them. Like my mom was sort of a hypochondriac and was obsessed with her. She had a lot of poor health, and my ex was just always, sick and she had some kind of health thing going on constantly. And, I just ignore it unless I have to do something. And of course I had to do something after I had COVID, because I just devastated my system. That was probably the worst health thing I had in terms of after effects, right? Where, I just learned to cope, and I don't like to think about it, and I don't like to do anything unless I have to, right? I don't go to the doctor unless, I almost never, in the hospital. There has to be something really severely wrong where, I have to go. And even then, if there's another way, I don't believe that that's a place where you heal. But anyways, I just, something popped in my back, and it was bad. It was, and my back had been strong for about a year. I don't remember the last time I hurt it, my lower back. And I, usually be like a month a year I'd have a bad back. But I've been doing these stretches, and especially for my psoas muscles. But I did something weird with it. And we had just come from the chiropractor, and we went to, Whole Foods and Costco. Our chiropractor is kind of a truther. And, I always bring in information, he doesn't have access to, but he has, a different kind of way he's a truther. And then we were at Whole Foods, and our cashier, my wife pointed out that they now have this way to pay with your palm. You put your palm on a screen, and it just, deducts money from whatever credit card you have on file there. And the cashier was like, this is really creepy. Like, she works there, but she was like, kind of a little truther person, whatever, maybe a little bit liberal truther. And she goes, some people, they don't even have to. We were like, well, how do you do it? She goes, we have to register, but some people don't have to because they're already in the system somehow. And they just walk up and they put their palm on, and they never have to register for anything. They just, that's where we're getting to, right? But anyways, I hurt my back, and I had seen a video from Dr. Berg that I had meant to watch because I was feeling some possible sciatic nerve pain in my leg when I woke up in the morning, if I slept on that one side. And my brother and my mom have sciatic issues, so I was like, I have to deal with this, and there's stretches and things you can do. And I had seen the video, and I had wanted to watch it, but I didn't have time. I got some good stuff from Dr. Berg before. I figured his was supplement related, right? And I finally watched it because I had the back thing. And he talked about copper deficiency. And again, I don't recommend things and whatever, but it kind of resonated with me because I've been taking niacin now for a while. And, again, I'm just talking about my own situation here. And and taking zinc, and they deplete your copper and other things, right? There's a list of things, and I, did a little research, and the things that make people copper deficient And copper deficiency might run in my family because at least two of my relatives had sciatic issues. Like I'd call my mom or my brother, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, my sciatic issue is flaming up. It's inflamed." Quite often, like I wouldn't talk to them that much, and probably like 1 out of 3 phone calls, they'd be talking about that, right? And so that's something that can be genetic, and it can come from a copper deficiency. Copper is something Berg was saying creates more collagen, and the collagen, it's a whole thing, right? You can find the video if if it's up to you. It's your thing. I'm not recommending, like I said. But the interesting thing is, I was taking no supplements before COVID, and now I take a bunch of them, right? Just I don't like taking them. I do now. I don't care. But as a kid, my mom used to give me these giant horse pills that was hard for me to swallow, like adult vitamins. And I used to hide them in the radiator. Like there was probably hundreds behind the radiator. We had these, old-fashioned radiators in the house. And so when I first got COVID and people were telling me what I needed to do, somebody recommended copper. It was like the first thing I took. And I took it for a while and, I didn't know if it was benefiting me or not. And then stopped. And then it sort of came full circle and I did some research into it. And we had some on hand. I took some of that. But I did the So Right thing, which is a plastic device that helps sort of it hits trigger points to release the psoas muscle, which is usually the cause for lower back stuff. And like I said, I have these stretches. I was doing the stretches. But the psoas thing, you go face down, and it's kind of unpleasant to use. And when I got up, I tried to get up off of it. Like my back it was worse. I just made it way worse. And I could barely move. It was really bad. But I ended up, loosened up a little bit. And then I've been doing these castor oil packs. It's something that, my wife found this video. I'd done it years and years ago, putting like a piece of cloth with castor oil on it over my liver and gallbladder. I was doing a bunch of liver things back then, and I didn't know if it helped or not. And, there's a young woman who was really annoying, who my wife sent me the video, but she knew her stuff and she had, chronic bad health. She was like a naturopath and she started to do this and it really helped her. And she developed a little side business of like pure whatever kind of castor oil. And she had these things where you could put it over your thyroid and put it over your liver and you could put it on for hours. And I did it. I've been doing it for a few days, and it really helped me sleep. And I felt like I was detoxing in a positive way, not one. Maybe I had a headache because of the detox, but sometimes it's like you got to have something. But I felt like it was helping me, and so I put the things on my side, and I was watching this video with Brother Bilal, and I was just in bed, and really couldn't move. It was like uncomfortable for me to be on the couch watching TV, so I just laying in bed watching this video, and I got up and my back was almost better. It was like some sort of Thanksgiving Day miracle. It was 2 days. It was Tuesday when it happened, But and my back is like a little bit tender and sore. But there were times I was cooking dinner last night, I didn't even notice that it was hurt, and I was going to make this special dinner. My wife likes Thai food, and I figured out how to make a couple of the things that she likes, and I was looking forward to trying to make the dinner, and I didn't know if I was even going to be able to stand and be there. But like it loosened up, and then when I did the cod liver oil, then I put cod liver oil on my back directly, and it helps extraordinarily. With this thing, right? And it was one of those situations where something like that, which I was looking at weeks of just not being able to do farm work, and it's a complete drag. And, then it goes away for a little bit, then you do something else and re-aggravate it, and, all this stuff where, it could be a month and, whatever it is, of just, pain and discomfort. But it went away basically instantly, and I have a system now. I have these stretches that I do. I did the stretches too, and I think the copper might have helped as well. It's hard with these supplements to figure out what you need, and like some supplements you're taking might leach out other things from your system. And like it's just, I mean, we live in a world where our food is so depleted. We just used to be able to eat food and it used to have everything in it that we needed. But now we don't have that. And there's deficiencies that people have. And it's harder to figure them out, right? And and then when you take something to, I mean, supplements themselves aren't easy for your body to process. It's better when it's in food. And you have good food that has all these minerals in it, and you have good soil that has all the things that you need. All these things I was talking about with the turkeys, right? So you have to have a more natural life, and of course weeds. People who know how to eat weeds and forage and things that have more nutrients in them, things that have deep roots that go down and grab nutrients from subsoil and things. It's what I talk about. When read the ingredients, it's hard to understand what you need. We used to have these cow minerals. When I first had a dairy cow, there was a place that was the original guy that figured out how to do organic minerals for cows. And it smelled like the ocean, like he had kelp and these things in it. And we went to his place, and I had a good conversation with him. He was 94 and he had cancer and he was dying. And he talked about his process and bringing this into the chemically based sort of corporate meat farms and things and dairy farms. The way that they were processing cows in the inhumane way, and these cows don't get the proper nutrition, and they're providing food for so many people. And he developed these minerals, and I gave our cows the minerals, and they ate them like they were the greatest thing in the world. But I would just pour them out there, and they would eat them for a couple of days, and then they would, sometimes they'd eat everything I put out there. They would eat, and I just kept on filling it, and then eventually they wouldn't eat it for like months, and then they come back and eat it, right? And in a natural environment, like we have these pasture animals, they walk around and just eat grass because that's all there is, and people hay their fields and put weed killer and all these things in it. But if you watch a cow or any sort of goats or sheep or things like this, they eat everything, right? They'll go into the woods, they eat leaves, they eat bark, they eat weed leaves off of trees, they'll eat nuts. Cows used to love acorns and things like this, and the acorns have an acid in them, so they have to be careful with it. But they'll go out and they'll smell things, and they'll know exactly what to eat. You'll see this with your dogs. If they have an upset stomach, they'll walk around, they'll eat grass, and they'll smell stuff, and they'll eat things they usually don't eat, right? But their body's telling them they're needing something, and they can tell by smelling it and finding things. Oftentimes, like in nature, like something like poison ivy, right next to it, jewelweed, which is sort of a cure for poison ivy or something that relieves some of the symptoms, grows right next to it. Like something that's poisonous, there's something that heals it grows right next to it, right? Things like this. In a natural environment, in a forest, you get back to these, these places where they grow naturally and locally, because where you live locally is, where your local environment, there's going to be food there that's appropriate for your local environment, right? That, now we import things from all over the place and we eat things out of season, and, but there's stuff that is there, the kind of stuff that you need. Maybe fruits and things like this are there for you when you're outside more and you're working and you're burning up more energy, and you have this energy that's, but in the winter, maybe not so much, having all this extra glucose in your system, right? And the rest of it. And so it's hard to tell with taking supplements and doing things in the modern way, when you have enough, like when your depletion of, how much you need to take just to keep it going, to have the right amount, all these things, right? But anyways, going back to this thing with my back, when you have poor health, I struggled with post-COVID stuff for a number of years. Now it's, pretty much gone. I had a mild version of something last year around this time, whatever it was. But like the first time I had it, my recovery period was, it took forever to get like back to, where I was feeling strong again. And it wasn't, it was a lot of input that I had to do. But that made me feel grateful and appreciative for good health, right? Like if you have asthma, then you appreciate breathing. Like for most people, we take breathing for granted because it's not pleasurable. It's not something that we're even conscious of. But when you have trouble breathing, and then you're able to take a deep breath, you appreciate it. And this is what I'm talking about with gratitude. For most people, gratitude comes from having the opposite, having something that's unpleasant go away, something painful, something that's hampering your ability to function or whatever. And problems. It could be emotional. It could be people in your life. It could be any number of things. And then the relief from not having that in your life anymore, you get a sense of gratitude and you appreciate. You learn to appreciate things. And it's unfortunate in our system that everything's so. People don't have like real problems to a certain extent. They have emotional problems, and they have belief system problems, and they're hating on other people, but they don't have real issues, that real problems where when the problems go away, you get a real sense of gratitude. You feel a real sense of feeling grateful because you're like, wow, this is so much better. The relief from pain and the relief of suffering is where gratitude comes from. Where you get a sense of being able to feel that on a natural, like just organic, spontaneous gratitude. But you can create gratitude by, changing your point of view about things and looking for some reason to be grateful for the things that you don't like. But going back to what I was saying about Saj Marg's, teachings, that the idea that pleasure is to be pursued and pain is to be avoided creates so many things, bad things. Because the endless pursuit of pleasure, see what happens in our society with, like now fentanyl use, but drug use, and, addiction to porn, addiction to all these things, right? And ultimately those things lead to pain, like leads to severe pain, right? Like leads to all kinds of pain, like, financial pain and, not being able to, being homeless maybe, or, all these ways that pursuing pleasure and having endless pleasure. Look at the rich people who have these decadent lifestyles, and they're miserable, ghoulish people disconnected from God, and the pain of loneliness, the pain of depravity, the heavy spiritual condition and grossness, these samskaras that they create, these impressions that blocks their ability to connect to God inside them. And so the pursuit of happiness and pleasure and things like that are not, with everything that you have, Master Charji, the third master of the system, every time he came to America, he would say, pain and pleasure are two sides of the same coin. When you have pleasure, you're going to have pain. Like they go together. And they have to go together because things are defined by their opposite, right? Without pain, you don't know what pleasure is. Without sadness, you don't know what happiness is, right? You have to feel the opposite. If you're happy all the time, you don't know it because that's your natural condition. If you're miserable and depressed all the time, you don't know that because you just feel that way, right? It's how you affect other people. They feel, your happiness, and it's contagious to them, or makes them feel whatever way they react, right, positive or negatively. And a depressed person just sucks the energy out of the room and brings everybody down, right? But gratitude is something different. You can feel pain, you can feel depressed, you can feel sad, you can feel happy, you can feel any of these things, any of these conditions, emotional or feeling-based conditions, and you can still feel gratitude. You can work towards being grateful for whatever you're feeling and whatever you're having going on in your life. So it's the most superior condition, because ultimately when you feel grateful, you feel God's love. Gratitude is like an open door, a key to feeling God's love, feeling the divinity inside you. And, working towards gratitude helps you feel that all the time. And so you can endure these other things, whether it be pleasure, whether it be pain, whether it be, whatever the ups and downs of your life, because all of those things, successes and failures, needs to be balanced out with gratitude and God's love, because it's, a grounding force. In fact, and grounding isn't the proper word because it's expansive. It's, but it's something that's stable. Something that can balance out. The pain isn't so bad and the pleasure isn't so good. It just keeps you, in a more a stable position where you're, You're having your highs and your lows. People struggle with both success and failure. People don't feel they feel uncomfortable with success. People have people are fearful of its success and these things, and they're also of course fearful of failure, and they have stressed about these things. I mean, success can stress people out. Happiness can stress people out. Like people who are not used to it makes them feel uncomfortable. But gratitude is something that balances all those things out, makes them naturalizes them, makes them sort of organic, makes them there's a flow to it, right? Where you flow through these various things in your life. Whether today's a good day for you because you have something to that's going to be a celebration in some way of people that you like and love in your life, and or you have miserable time with your family that everyone hates each other or whatever it is, or you're lonely and it's just a reminder that you don't have anybody in your life or whatever. In terms of this day or any of these holidays or any of these days that are supposed to be special, there's a way to focus and make it about what it's all about, which is gratitude. Like ultimately, Thanksgiving is, about gratitude more than any other holiday. And it's something for everyone to strive for, just because of certainly any time, but right now in this, conditions that are happening, gratitude is essential for people to persevere and get through this time period. The collapse of a decadent civilization that is, leaching all the positivity and natural divinity and natural, feelings and things that are inside us out of our system and taking us on a unnatural demonic path. And without it, we're, basically all our material needs are met by the system. So I talk about this all the time. We're caught in a trap of being addicted and dependent on something that's bad for us. And, that's, a horrible place to be. And all of us are there. It's to some extent, right? We need the system, but the system is hurting us and keeping us down. It's, enslaving us. And then as it collapses, and it's all these things. I mean, you think about the people who have some sort of pain relief that they're taking all the time. They're taking something, whether it be psychological medication or self-medication or alcohol or drugs or something. They're taking things just so they can endure the pain of their lives on a daily basis. And that maybe a lot of you are in that situation. They're listening to this. And what happens when those things aren't available, whether it be, over-the-counter pain relief or, Tylenol or, caffeine or something more mild or something more severe, and all the things that people need in the system that's keeping them from feeling the pain and the misery that's inside them, the depression, all of it, right? Chronic illnesses and things. And, and those things aren't there anymore when you don't have something to give you relief from your physical issues, your mental issues, your emotional issues. I mean, that's one of the things that people don't realize in an apocalyptic situation. All the things that they just take for granted that are there, that maybe that are not great for them, but have become addicted to. And then you have all these addictions and they're gone, right? Things like comforts, like what's it like when your house is really hot in the summer and really cold in the winter and you don't have electricity and you don't have these things, internet addiction and, all these things that are distractions to how you feel. And, when the electricity goes out and there's peace, like there's peace that people feel and you don't have these distractions available, people breathe a sigh of relief. Some people are sensitive to it. Like if you get away from like if it's just everything, all the satellites were gone and all the electricity and these things, you go out in nature where you don't have any signals, you can't get any cell phone reception, and you breathe a sigh of relief when you go out to places like that. And there are not many places like that are available. Even if there's less, there's just, you're out more in the woods or the jungle or, somewhere where it's, there's just a level of, peace and not all this, electromagnetic pollution and all these things that go with it. And there's a sigh of relief, but then you have to face yourself, right? You don't have things to distract you from all the thoughts that you've buried and, all these things that you don't want to think about or feel inside you. And, that's why people struggle to meditate, because they don't want to look inside. They don't want to feel what it's like to be them. They don't want to feel what their actual condition is. So they have these distractions and these, painkillers that they're taking to avoid feeling the way they actually feel. And, there's a sense of panic that sets in when they have to face themselves and feel these things. And that time is coming around. When the system collapses, everyone has to go inside and, deal with the things that they've been pushing away and all these other things. Being able to do that and be grateful for it. I mean, it's one of the advantages of Sajmarg with the cleaning and the transmission and things that, you can have internal peace. Like I can just sit there and meditate and not have any thoughts and not have any, stressors. And I can look inside and not be all stressed out and, worried. Like people have a fear of looking inside themselves and meditating and seeing what's in there, things that they, can't face about themselves. You know, Happy Thanksgiving. But anyways, this is, like just a reminder about these things. I don't know. Whatever. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paravano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.